I'll do is kind of give you all a lay of the land. So we're here at the visitor center, this star on the table. A little bit about our visitor center. It originally was an auto mechanic shop, which resided in the warehouse district. Here they worked on farm equipment, government vehicles, fire engines, and part of this building is original. So if you guys come forward, if you look at this side of the building, my left, you'll see that it becomes lighter at one point. That is the original building, while everything else is an add-on. Though this visitor center does occupy the same footprint as the original building. If you go inside, everything past that visitor center desk is going to be the original structure. Everything else is an add-on. If y'all came through, you may have passed the guard tower. That is our official entrance, though you can also come from the other way. The modern site itself is about from that guard tower to about just past the visitor center. All in all, a modern site's about 400 acres, though the original site, which encompassed everything within this fence around here, which would have been over 5 miles of barbed wire fence, would have been about 1,000 acres. There would have been also an additional 33,000 acres, which constituted farmland around this area. Now, I do want to take this time to talk about some terminology. You may have heard of this being referred to as an internment camp. Historically speaking, this would have been referred to as a concentration camp. FDR would have used that term. The governor of Idaho at that time, Chase Clark, would have used that term. And we also use that term as well as the term incarceration camp. So reason why we like to make that distinction is because when you talk about internment, there were internment camps in America, but internment is a very specific legal definition. It is when you take people, nationals, foreign nationals of other countries that you are at war with, and you incarcerate them. So that would have been Italian nationals, German nationals, Japanese nationals, who would have been within the country when the war was declared. Now these internees would have been given due process and would have been thoroughly investigated, and if they were deemed a liability or maybe aided the war effort, they would have been interned in the United States. If not, they would have been deported back to their countries of origin. Calling this a concentration camp, we use the definition of the idea that you're just taking a group of people and concentrating them on the basis of race or ethnicity. We're not trying to take away or degrade the idea of those concentration camps used during the Holocaust, those that are usually associated with it. Those used by the Nazi regime could also be more accurately described as extermination camps. That is not what was happening here. This was just, again, concentrating people on the basis of their race. You also may hear the term incarceration camp. That is just another term to separate from internment camps where people were incarcerated here against their will. So with that out of the way, the camp originally had 640 buildings. Now we only have 6. From block 1, which is one over here, to block 44, this would have been about a 3-mile walk. To give you a little bit more of a perspective on the size of this camp, I'll have y'all turn around real quick, or maybe you're already facing that way, and you see that blue farmhouse over there among the trees? If you look to the left of it, you'll see this kind of long, gray, skinny building with a gray roof. That is an original barracks from block 19, which is unmoved. And if you turn your attention back to the maps, block 19 is this one right here. So again, we're here at the visitor center. This is block 19. All in all, again, this would have been about a 3-mile walk from block 44 to block 1. Again, on a day like today, let's say if you lived in block 44 and worked at the VC here or the auto center, that would have been pretty nice. It's not very hot. It's nice and windy. But you also have to imagine when it was not like that. So there's a story of a woman who had to walk almost the length of the camp during the winter months, during the Christmas season, because she was going into labor. It was snowing outside, it was very cold, and when she showed up to the hospital, it was closed. All of the doctors were on break. So she had to walk up to the administrator's building, knock on their door, and basically convince them that she needed a doctor and that she needed to go to the hospital. Another thing to point out is that the farmland around us is one of the great legacies of the Japanese Americans, the Japanese who were incarcerated who were held here. So when they got here, this would have been sagebrush desert. So when it rained, it would have become incredibly muddy, incredibly hard to traverse. In a lot of historical photos, you will see people wearing mud boots that go over their knee. just trying to get out of the mud around that they found themselves in. Now, to talk about each block itself, you can kind of think of each block as a neighborhood. Each one was consisted of 15 buildings, 12 barracks, a mess hall, a bathroom, which doubled as a laundry, and a recreation hall. There was 36 total residential blocks, 1 through 19, so this chunk right here would have been from Washington State, 21 through 43 would have been through Oregon, and this last one here would have been through Bainbridge Island. Now, you may have already watched our film inside, but Bainbridge Island is specifically the first community that would have been forcibly relocated to one of these camps after the Executive Order 9066. Now, each block consisted of about 300 people, and each barrack housed 6 apartments. Now, those apartments could have been made up of families, or people who were single who didn't have families would have also been placed into one room. Now, initially, Governor Chase Clark of Idaho didn't want this incarceration camp in Idaho. He is quoted as saying, "I don't want any," and he uses a slur here, I will not be using it, "Japanese Americans in Idaho unless they are in a concentration camp." He also said, "I can't see us sending Idaho boys out to fight the," uses the slur again, but "the Japanese, and then let them come back to find," use the slur again, "Japanese Americans in their homes and on their farms." He was eventually convinced, seeing that the incarcerees could cultivate the land. Again, as you look around you, that is a lot of the cultivation that came from the Japanese, the incarcerees. Now, Minidoka opened unfinished August of 1942, and all told would become the 6th largest city in Idaho, when its peak population hit about 9,400 people. Now, 13,000 people over the course of 3 years would have inhabited this area. It's about a fourth of the population of Twin Falls. And I know that's, so if you can imagine taking a fourth of Twin Falls population and dropping them here, that's about accurate. And I can actually know that from experience of taking a fourth of a population and moving it out. I'm from Chapel Hill, North Carolina. That's a college town. And the regular base population is about 90,000 people, while with students, it's about 120,000. So when winter break hits or summer break hits, that place is a ghost town, or people like saying it's calm, but there is a really legitimate just takeaway of a huge amount of people, and you feel it in the air. I also want to say, coming from North Carolina, this place is kind of strange to me, the geography. How many of you are from the area or maybe have seen this type of geography before? Raise your hands. Yeah, about a month ago, I had never seen a tumbleweed. I thought it was a trash bag going across the interstate when I first saw one. So you can imagine coming from the Pacific Northwest, again, coming from Oregon, Washington, some from Alaska, coming to this area that would have been sagebrush desert, and it would have been alien. I know it's alien to me, at least. When I think of North Carolina, I think of rolling hills, tobacco fields, and the Appalachian Mountains. I definitely do not think of sagebrush deserts. And so, in thinking about this and having people come from a place that is so different and against their own will, I like to try to get you all to think, how would you make this better for yourself? Not just for yourself even, but for the family you brought along, for your kids, your husband, your wife, your grandparents. How would you make this better? And there were over 13,000 unique stories that are from Minidoka. Now, we will discuss some of those today. Some are happy, some are sad, some are funny. But as we move on, again, you can try to get yourself in the shoes of the people who are living and seeing the sagebrush desert and trying to make it feel more like a home. And with that, we will transition to one of the ways they did do that, which is the root cellar. And I will hand it back over to Ranger Midori, which is somewhere. Oh, I didn't see her. There she is.
Thank you, Connor.